Last week, we discussed Mitch Marner and how difficult it would be to bring him to Long Island. But today, we'll discuss a player who could help the Islanders' offense and be a much more realistic target for the Isles. We've got that and a lot more coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast.
Your Locked On Islanders, your daily podcast on the New York Islanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to the Monday edition of the Locked On Islanders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you can get new episodes as soon as they drop. We have got a lot to discuss on today's show, but first, if there's something Islanders related on your mind, and we are going to get to a question today, feel free to send us an email. The email address, lockedonislanders@gmail.com. And if you leave your first name and where you're from, we're happy to mention you on the show when we discuss whatever's on your mind. You can also follow the show on X at Locked On Isles, and you can follow me, Gil Martin, on X at Ice Wars. NYR VSNYI. We'll keep you up to date on all things Islanders all offseason long. Trade rumors, hirings, firings, free agency, the draft. We've got it all covered for you here on Locked On Islanders. And it's always great to talk Islanders hockey with you, game time or anytime. Last week, we did discuss Mitch Marner. And, there were rumors going around that Marner was going to be on the trade block. And, maybe it would make sense if the Islanders basically inquired. And they're obviously, I got some emails and comments basically saying, hey, why don't we go out and get him? Well, it's obviously not that easy. And we went through the obstacles that it would take to get Mitch Marner here. And again, go back a couple of days and listen to or watch that show for a more in-depth analysis. Everydayers, you've heard that already. But there are other players who may be available who certainly could help the Islanders get younger, faster, and more skilled and be a better fit on the salary cap and not have as many obstacles to bring that player to the island. And we've been talking for a long time about this team not having top six forwards on their roster, needing one, realistically, two more legitimate top six forwards, but one for sure. You can't not have one line with three legit top six guys. And the only time the Islanders really didn't have their top line like that is when they moved Brock Nelson up to the top line. And that worked really well for a couple of weeks, and then it kind of faded. But there's another player out there who is rumored to possibly be available and who would be a great fit, in my mind, on a line with Bo Horvat and Mathew Barzal. And that is Winnipeg Jets winger Nikolaj Ehlers. And Ehlers, I think, he's not as dynamic offensively as Mitch Marner, okay? Marner is the guy who's going to get you 80, 90 points a year. You're not getting that with Nikolaj Ehlers, okay? What you're getting, though, is consistent 25, 27, 29 goal production. And when he's healthy, look, he's been in the NHL 9 years, 7 of them, 20 or more goals, a career high 29 back in 2017, 2018, 28 in just 62 games in 2021, 2022. Last year, played in all 85 games, 25 goals, 61 points. Compare those numbers to the numbers of guys who were put up on that first line. Casey Cizikas, Hudson Fasching. guys who are really checking forwards, who were put on that top line to try to add something, because there really weren't a lot of other legitimate choices. So Ehlers is 6 foot, about 175 pounds. He's a first round pick back in 2014. He's 28 years old, just turned 28 in February. So, and he has 2 years left on his contract this year, and 2024, 2025, 2025, 2026. And oh yeah, his cap hit $6 million a year, which is a third less. Maybe, it's $3.5 million a year less than what it would cost to bring in Mitch Marner. And he's a left wing, which would be the perfect thing to, perfect spot to slot him in. He's got playoff experience. And no, he's not a physical guy. I mean, look, he only had 30 hits in 82 games this year. You're not getting, the physicality or the size. But if you go to YouTube, for example, and watch Nikolaj Ehlers highlights, here's a guy who took 233 shots on goal this year. Here's a guy with a career shooting percentage of 11.7, a guy who can help on the power play, had 7 power play goals as a career high. Certainly is, capable, had assists on the power play every year of his career. Here is a guy who can do some of the things that the Islanders need. And maybe more importantly, from an Islanders perspective, he's got the speed that you need to keep him, if you want to keep up with Mathew Barzal, there are not a lot of guys on the Islanders roster who can do it. Ehlers certainly would fit the bill. Now, there are issues about Ehlers. He does have a modified no trade clause, 10 teams that he will not go to. Are the Islanders one of those 10 teams? We don't know. Even if they are, would he be willing to waive that no trade clause now that Patrick Waugh is the coach, knowing that he would probably get a chance to play with both Bo Horvat and Mathew Barzal? Maybe. He is a Danish player. Whether or not, New York would be someplace he would be willing to call home, that remains to be seen. But hey, New York City, Long Island, Queens, the most diverse county in the United States. I guarantee you there's a Danish community where he can go and feel comfortable there if he wants to that and wants to get good Danish food. I'm sure all of those things are available. He could probably speak to Franz Nielsen about, hey, what is it like to live on Long Island or in or around New York City and be a part of the community here. There's an injury history there. He has missed some time. He didn't miss any time last year, so that certainly is a plus. But in the past, again, here is a player who, he's missed 57 total games over the 2 previous seasons to 2022, to 2023, 2024. So there is a little bit of an injury history that you have to be a little concerned about. Now, the question is, what would it take to get him? You'd still have to free up a little bit of cap space, maybe, but I would say if you were to include J.G. Pageau or someone in the neighborhood of that $5 million salary, you would be getting, enough cap space to fit him under the cap for the next couple of years, and you would you would also be able to re-sign your restricted free agents if you wanted to. Your Kyle McLeans, for example, you could easily bring them back, and your Mike Riley's. you could sign those guys and bring in Ehlers, where if you go the Mitch Marner route and you have the higher cap hit, it's not likely. The sticking point may be this. The Winnipeg Jets are probably looking more at prospects and picks at this point. Or when I say prospects, lower cost players who, they can fit under their budget, because they're having some monetary issues in Winnipeg as well. Whether or not the Islanders can put together a package, and it would almost certainly include the Islanders' first round pick in this year's draft, but whether they could put together a package of picks and prospects or younger players who would be attractive to the Jets, that remains to be seen. And that is one of the challenges that Lou Lamoriello would face. But would Nikolaj Ehlers fit into Patrick Roy's system? I think he'd be a very good fit. And so, again, just putting it out there, whether or not this would work for the New York Islanders. We have got a lot more to get to on today's show. We'll start today our player-by-player review of the season. We're going to talk about what they did this past year, what their contract situation is, and what their future role, if any, is with the New York Islanders. We'll start today with Oliver Wahlstrom. Plus, for our Islanders birthday of the day, a veteran goalie who joined the Islanders in the mid-2000 teens. We'll see if you can guess who that is. We've got that and a whole lot more coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by your friends at Policy Genius. Policy Genius is the country's leading online insurance marketplace. It saves you time and money so you can provide your family with a financial safety net starting today. With Policy Genius, you can find life insurance policies that start at just $292 per year for $1 million worth of coverage. Some options offer same-day approval and avoid unnecessary medical exams. Policy Genius helps you compare your options from top companies, and their team of licensed experts is on hand to help talk you through it. Talk to a team of award-winning agents who will walk you through the process step by step, and they easily compare quotes from America's top insurers in just a few clicks to find your lowest price. So check life insurance off your to-do list in no time with Policy Genius. Head to policygenius.com/LockedOnNHL or click on the link in the description to get your free life insurance quotes and see how much you could save. That's policygenius.com/LockedOnNHL. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports Today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So we begin our player-by-player review of the season, and we're going to eventually talk about every player on the Islanders roster, what they accomplished, what their role was, what their role might be next year if they come back, and a whole lot more. We're going to start with Oliver Wahlstrom. And unfortunately, it wasn't a great year for Wally. He only played in 32 games, scored 2 goals, had 4 assists for 6 points. He was a -6, had 8 penalty minutes, did have 35 hits in 32 games, blocked 22 shots, which was certainly encouraging. One of his 2 goals and one of his 4 assists came on the power play, and he took 41 shots in 32 games. Here's the thing about Oliver Wahlstrom, and it's kind of a double-edged sword. Wally is now 23. He'll be 24 in a month. In fact, in exactly 1 month, June 13th. I don't think he fits into Patrick Roy's system that well, mostly because he doesn't have the speed and maybe the hockey sense that Waugh is looking for. And it just, he had a chance under Patrick Waugh after the coaching change was made. He played a bunch of games in February 5th through the 24th. He was out there for 10 games under Patrick Waugh. He produced exactly 1 assist in those 10 games. Did not get much accomplished offensively. Didn't see a heck of a lot of ice time over the course of the season. Was on ice for 11:04 per game on average. Not a high number. Here's the thing. I think Oliver Wahlstrom, you could talk about the Islanders didn't give him enough chances. You could talk about the bad luck with his knee injury. I think we're at the stage of Oliver Wahlstrom's career. He has now appeared in games over the last 5 years for the Islanders. Granted, 9 games back in 2019, 2020, 1 full season, 2021, 2022. Excuse me, where he played in 73 games, and that's when he had a career high 13 goals. But he's never blossomed in the Islanders system. And, did the Islanders, were they tough on him, not giving him a lot of opportunities when he was coming up? Yeah, absolutely. They gave him almost no margin for error. Then the knee injury obviously impeded his progress. He had a tough time coming back. Said it took him a full year before he started to feel like himself again. So there are explanations for why Oliver Wahlstrom has not lived up to his first round billing, 11th overall back in 2018. But I think personally, he is now a restricted free agent. And he has arbitration rights. If I'm the Islanders, I may look to trade him or a sign and trade. I don't know what you would get for Oliver Wahlstrom. You could probably get a late round pick at some point. But I think the important thing for both the player and the team is that the Islanders and Oliver Wahlstrom are probably better off parting ways. I think Wahlstrom needs a fresh start elsewhere without the historical baggage of the short leash the Islanders gave him. The Islanders don't seem to have a place for him on the roster. I venture to say if he was scoring 25 goals a year, the Islanders would find a way to put him in. But Patrick Waugh didn't seem, there were plenty of opportunities when this team was struggling offensively for Patrick Waugh to say, you know what this team needs is more Oliver Wahlstrom. He might be the guy who could get us the goal scoring we need. But it never happened. And after those 10 games that he played, the only other game he played under Waugh came in the season finale, which, as we all know, the game meant nothing as far as playoff seeding was concerned. So I just get the feeling that either Lou Lamoriello will not sign Oliver Wahlstrom, or Oliver Wahlstrom will be signed and traded. They can't send him down to the minors without putting him on waivers. That's another possible option. Sign him, invite him to training camp if you can't trade him, and then see if any team picks him up on waivers. He's not going to earn a lot of money. He earned $874,125 last year. I can't see the salary going up past $1 million, probably no more than $900,000. So if you want to keep him, he's inexpensive. But if he doesn't have a role, if he's going to be your black ace again, and that is, I believe, barring a major turnaround in his play, where he's going to be, I think the time may have come for the Islanders to part ways with Oliver Wahlstrom, and we'll see whether or not that's what they decide to do. We have got a lot more to discuss on today's show. We're going to talk a little bit about former Islanders players who are still in the playoffs now that we are well into the second round. Maybe, who Islander fans would be rooting for. We've got that and a whole lot more coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by your friends at eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. So with the playoffs still going on as we are in round two and pretty much into the thick of it already, midway through the round, I wanted to talk about some former Islanders who are still alive in the Stanley Cup playoffs. And let's start with the Florida Panthers, who are now up 3-1 in their series against the Boston Bruins. Kyle Oposo in the playoffs, playing a bottom six role now for Florida, giving them some experience, giving them a little, checking ability, leadership ability. He is playing for Florida and has a chance to actually get back into the conference final if Florida can close out Boston. As we know, he had some great moments with the Islanders. Hasn't been in the playoffs for 8 years. Didn't play at all in the playoffs for Buffalo, and now has a chance to get to the conference final. Meanwhile, for Boston, in that very same series, former Islanders defenseman Parker Wotherspoon playing major minutes. Now, he was in the Islanders organization for 5 years, only played for the Islanders a little bit last year. He's been a regular for the most part, played in 6 of the first 8 playoff games for the Bruins this year, and played 41 games for Boston down the stretch after starting the year in the minors. Parker Wotherspoon, who could not make the Islanders roster every day, taking advantage of his opportunity in Boston, and it is looking positive for him. And then out west, you still have 2 players on the Colorado Avalanche. Devon Toews, who has already won a cup, and we know all about what he's accomplished since leaving Long Island. Unfortunately, a lot of Islander fans never forgave Lou Lamoriello for parting ways with Devon Toews in that trade that was necessitated by the team's poor cap situation. Toews still with the Avs, and then Zach Parise, who was with the Islanders the last couple of years, now ended up signing with the Avalanche and is hoping to win that elusive Stanley Cup. Now, last year at the end of the season, we know Parise said, either I'm retiring or I'm going to rejoin the Islanders next year. I'm going to take some time and make that decision. Well, he took the time, and when we got, to the midway point roughly of the season, he kind of figured the Islanders were not a true cup contender, and that if he wanted one more shot at Lord Stanley's silver chalice, he will have to sign elsewhere. He ended up with the Avalanche, and now this will be the 39-year-old's final chance to win a Stanley Cup. He has flat out said that, hey, I am retiring after this year. Now, again, we've heard that before. We've seen him change his mind before. But at the same time, it looks like this is it for the 39-year-old Parise. And now he is getting that last chance with the Avs to win a Stanley Cup. Those are the Islanders players. Atu Ratu, on the Vancouver Canucks in the organization, but not really playing in the playoffs. So, no, I didn't forget about him, but no, he isn't playing. So, not including him right now. Those are the former Islanders that are still in the Stanley Cup playoff race. And let's see if any of them end up with a winning season. That obviously remains to be seen. Time now for our Islanders birthday of the day, and today is the 39th birthday of former Islanders goalie Jaroslav Halak, the native of Bratislava, Slovakia, 5'11", 189 pounds, ninth round pick by the Canadiens back in 2003, made his NHL debut with the Habs in 2006-2007, later played for the Blues, the Capitals, and then joined the Islanders for 2014-2015, stayed with the Isles for 4 seasons before joining the Bruins, the Canucks, and closing out his NHL career with the Rangers in 2022-2023. 581 career games, a 2.50 goals against average, and a .915 save percentage. Ended his career with 295 career wins, just short of that magic 300 number. And Halak won 2 Jennings trophies over the course of his career. We go back and look at one of his better games as an Islander. How about January 27th, 2015, Islanders hosting the Rangers at the Nassau Veterans Memorial Coliseum. It was Henrik Lundqvist against Jaro Halak in goal. And in this game, the New York Islanders, basically in a high, wide open kind of a game, Islanders outshot 41-38, but end up with a 4-1 win, mainly because Jaro Halak made 40 saves in this game on 41 shots. As for the Islanders, 2 assists in this game for Johnny Boychuk, goals for John Tavares, Ryan Strome, Matt Martin, and Mikhail Grabovski. So the Islanders beat the Rangers 4-1 behind an outstanding performance by Jaroslav Halak. He is our Islanders birthday of the day. Want to thank everyone for making Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Everydayers, tomorrow on the show, we will continue with our player-by-player review of last season, a look ahead to what to expect from that player next season, and we'll have a whole lot more as well. So have a great day, everybody. Stay safe, and of course, let's go Islanders.